what I have for you is so stunning and so enraging. It's come out through the 1 point something billion defamation lawsuit that Dominion has brought against Fox News for their hosts' possibly defamatory language about Dominion voting system after the 2020 election. Of course, Sidney Powell being kind of the figurehead for these wild election claims that were then bolstered on networks like Fox News. And through this lawsuit process, text messages, private communications within Fox News have now been revealed, showing that, as you probably would expect, they knew that this was BS. They knew that they were spreading lies and had some pretty stark terms to describe that behind the scenes, but then on camera, they were on board with the lies. On camera, they were participating in the breaking down of our democratic process that people led by Trump were taking part in. This is stunning stuff here from USA Today. Top executives and news hosts at Fox News privately shared they did not buy into then President Donald Trump's allegations of 2020 election fraud, despite giving airtime to many of those same false claims, according to a court filing in Dominion Voting Systems defamation lawsuit against the news network. Privately, Fox hosts and executives knew that Donald Trump lost the election and that he needed to concede, the filing reads, but Fox viewers heard a different story repeatedly. And of course, Fox News is saying that this is manipulating the facts, these bits of information, but let's start diving into it. Host Tucker Carlson said as early as November 16th, 2020, that Trump ally Sidney Powell was lying about election fraud, according to the filing. He texted an individual whose name was redacted that her claims, made without evidence, were shockingly reckless. Tucker Carlson calling Sidney Powell's claims shockingly reckless. Were we hearing that on television? In a deposition, host Sean Hannity said of Powell's election fraud narrative that he did not believe it for 1 second, according to the filing. But in the meantime, he told his audience that it would be impossible to ever know the true, fair, accurate election results. That's a fact, the filing says. And then we get to Laura Ingraham, who told Tucker Carlson that Powell is a complete nut. No one will work with her. Ditto with Rudy, referring to former New York mayor and Trump supporter Rudy Giuliani, who, as you might remember during that time, was spreading election lies and having his face melt off, his hair dye run down his face. Carlson replied that he found Powell's lies unbelievably offensive. Tucker Carlson calling Powell's lies, quote, unbelievably offensive because their viewers are good people and they believe it. They believe it, Tucker, because of people like you. Oh, this is so enraging, as I said. And then on January 6, 2021, the day the U.S. Capitol was stormed by a pro-Trump mob as Congress sought to certify the results of the 2020 election, Carlson texted his producer that Trump is a demonic force, a destroyer, but he's not going to destroy us. A demonic force, a destroyer, is what Tucker Carlson had to say about Trump. And again, I say, is that what we saw on television? They were too afraid of losing viewers to tell the truth. And so instead they bolstered these very same lies. And then this section is titled, Executives Didn't Believe Claims Either. Fox Corporation Chair Rupert Murdoch called the false voter fraud claims really crazy stuff and damaging in a text following a press conference by Powell and Giuliani. And that may have been either the Four Seasons Total Landscaping press conference or the hair dye running down Giuliani's face press conference. Murdoch also told Fox News CEO Suzanne Scott, it's been suggested our primetime 3 should independently or together say something like, the election is over and Joe Biden won, and that such a statement will go a long way to stop the Trump myth that the election, it should say was stolen, but it says that the election stolen, the filing says, and you can see the filing itself there. So we're going to look at more, but just from that already, truly one of the lowest character batch of people you could possibly imagine, where privately they're saying this is crazy, these people are nuts, and the boss at the very top is saying maybe we should have our hosts say the truth for once. Can you imagine? And of course that didn't happen. And instead, it was Fox News and networks like Fox News that caused these narratives to be so prominent. And one of the most distorted parts of all of this is then individuals like Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson will turn around and say, listen, we just have to take seriously the concerns of a lot of the country. And a lot of the country believes the election was stolen. So we at least need to talk about it. Clearly, there's something wrong because so many, I think a recent poll I saw had 60% of Republicans thinking the last election was stolen. And they'll point at that to say that's why we needed to take this seriously. When the very reason that so many people believe that lie is because of Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, and all of these other media hosts and politicians. Marjorie Greene, for example, used a similar line during an interview saying, I think the election was stolen, and that's okay because a lot of people think the election was stolen. Yes, because people like you, because you perpetuated those lies without evidence. We continue this time from the Washington Post. Quote, Sidney Powell is lying, Tucker Carlson wrote to a producer about the Trump lawyer who once claimed in a guest spot that voting technology companies flipped Trump votes to Biden. Terrible stuff, damaging everyone, wrote company founder Rupert Murdoch about wild claims raised by Powell and fellow Trump advisor Rudy Giuliani. The recipient of his note, and that was the CEO, agreed. In another message, Murdoch referred to the claims as really crazy stuff and very hard to credibly claim foul everywhere. Hannity said that Giuliani was, quote, acting like an insane person, and Laura Ingraham called Giuliani such an idiot. And as I noted previously, this is a part of the $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit. In my mind, if this is not defamation, what is defamation? If behind the scenes you can verify these hosts were going, well, this is wild. All right, 3, 2, 1, we're live. This is credible stuff. The election was stolen. Then I don't know what else you could consider defamation. And what's fascinating is when I cover these subjects, and as we just had a moment there, genuinely, sometimes I approach it in a lighthearted way because it's so wild, it's so buffoonish, it's bananas, and it's easier to laugh about it. And I think that's an appropriate response oftentimes to the Giuliani mayhem and even Sidney Powell being such an odd person and just the baselessness of these claims. But if you want to tap into the real emotions that are there, that are justified, it is so deeply tragic and dangerous and frightening that we have an entire media ecosystem dedicated towards lying, and not because they themselves are misinformed, but because they value the ratings, they value the money that comes with those ratings, they value having a big audience, being relevant within the MAGA base over the truth, over the well-being of our country. So now we have a democracy in peril, a massive portion of our country that says the only way elections are fair is if my candidate wins, because so many cowards chose to side with the lies for short-term benefits over the truth. And it honestly is quite sickening. Let me know what you think of all of this in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get the full bonus show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley. Link in the description.